Deputies in eastern Washington snapped steel cuffs around Rain Brown's wrists. In the blink of an eye, the once cheerful rainbow of Alaskan Bush People was transformed into the latest inmate, booked for burglary and malicious mischief alongside her new husband, Josiah Lawton. Fans were left in shock, struggling to process the reality of the moment. How did the gentle, scripture-quoting daughter end up behind bars? What hidden turmoil pushed her from the sanctuary of the forest to the stark, fluorescent lights of a jail cell? The story is still unfolding, and with the first signs not looking promising, the storm brewing ahead seems inevitable. Whispers quickly spread across fan forums: Rain arrested. That can't be real, but the booking sheet didn't lie. Merry Christmas indeed. Catherine Raindrop Brown, known to the world as Rain Brown, was listed on the official documents, facing charges for first-degree burglary, first-degree malicious mischief, and second-degree criminal trespass. Between her seemingly joyful 2025 Instagram wedding post and the shocking April 11th arrest, the youngest daughter of Discovery Channel's toughest family had crossed a legal line no one could have predicted. And little did fans know, Northstar Ranch, a place so far removed from civilization, was hiding much more than just isolation. The ranch, built after a devastating wildfire destroyed the original homestead, had become the last dream of Billy Brown before his untimely passing. It was meant to be a refuge where his 7 children could heal, raise future generations, and stay connected to the wild Alaskan life they loved. For years, each of the Browns tried to fulfill that dream. Gabe planting apple trees, Noah installing solar-powered water systems, Bear carving out trails for his children to explore. But Rain, who once gleefully chopped logs and radiated positivity, began to withdraw. Off camera, she once filled her social media with gratitude-filled posts and psalm quotes, mixing in puppy selfies with sweet reflections. After Billy's death and the cancellation of the show in 2022, her Instagram feed began to grow darker and more cryptic. A February 2024 post read, "When the sky breaks, it breaks you first." Fans grew concerned, but many dismissed it as a product of her grief. No one saw the burglary charges coming, nor the legal storm that would soon follow. The events surrounding that fateful April day remain obscured in a sealed affidavit, but investigators allege a forced entry, broken antique glass, and property damage exceeding $25,000. Some supporters argue that the cabin, partially abandoned, was not properly maintained, and that Rain was simply trying to retrieve important paperwork owed to her. Rumors have swirled. One claims the cabin belonged to her former manager, a figure she later accused of stealing $43,000 from her. Regardless of the truth, her arrest sent shockwaves through the carefully crafted wilderness brand Billy had built over decades. Discovery executives issued a brief statement: "We are monitoring developments." As sponsors of rerun deals hit pause on promotions, tabloid headlines screamed about the death of the Bush innocence myth. Meanwhile, Rain and Josiah waited in county holding, their heads low beneath the cold, flickering lights of the holding cell, a far cry from the wide-open wilderness they once called home. Online, fans quickly split into 2 factions. One side clung to her past devout posts, asserting that Rain had no malice in her heart. The other pointed to moments when she defied Billy's rules, suggesting that this might be the explosive result of long-buried rebellion finally breaking free. Between them lay a third view. Grief, fame, and debt have a way of distorting reality, much like how a polar night can stretch time itself. By the morning of April 14th, Rain and Josiah had walked free, released on personal recognizance. But the damage to Rain's reputation felt irreversible. It was like a crack in river ice, one that might never fully heal. Across TikTok, tearful edits of Rain singing around campfires collided with biting memes of a cartoon bear behind bars. A Change.org petition demanding Discovery help finance her defense quickly gathered 10,000 signatures. Yet just as many unsubscribed, grumbling that the Browns had worn out their welcome after the reruns ended in late 2022. Whatever was to come, it would not be quiet. Roots in the wilderness, long before court hearings and handcuffs, Rain Brown's world had been marked by tree rings and frozen river ice. She had arrived on a bitter November morning in 2002, the youngest spark in Billy and Amy Brown's brood of 7. Instead of lullabies, she was rocked to sleep by the hum of chainsaws slicing through timber. And rather than suburban streets, her tiny hands crawled over moss-slicked logs in southeast Alaska's mist-shrouded fjords. Discovery cameras found the Browns when Rain was just 11 years old. Producers had expected a survival spectacle, but they stumbled onto a complex love story between a family and the land. Alaskan Bush People premiered in May 2014, and Rain's wide, toothy grin quickly became the show's symbol of innocence. She chopped kindling half her size, spoke with an almost Shakespearean flourish, and slipped quick prayers into the smallest pauses. Viewers embraced her as the show's heartbeat, the one sibling who refused to cuss, even when frostbitten. She once sewed old flannel scraps into doll dresses, believing every leftover thread deserved a second adventure under the moonlight. But fame carries a heavy weight. Filming schedules replaced natural seasons. Privacy disappeared faster than creek water evaporating on a campfire grate. While classmates posted prom selfies, Rain shared footage of hauling elk quarters through snow and sleet. She insisted she didn't mind, but by 2018, her Instagram hinted at something deeper. Some days the mud feels ankle deep in my soul. Teenage frustration began to surface. There were requests for store-bought makeup. Battles with trolls who accused the family of staging everything. Whispers that Rain might leave for college. Billy believed hardship forged character. Amy, battling lung cancer, believed faith conquered despair. Between those guiding stars, Rain tried to find her way. She watched as Matt and Joshua struggled with addiction and paparazzi. She saw Birdie wrestle with the possibility that surgery might cost her the chance to become a mother. And she witnessed producers push harder each season, blurring the line between documentary and performance until even the sunrises felt staged. When Billy passed away in February 2021, the show lost its sense of direction. Ratings plummeted. Discovery cut the budget. After season 14 in 2022, the series came to a quiet end. At 19, Rain faced the world without the camera crew that had been her constant companions. She posted a farewell photo of the snow-covered Browntown cabin with the words, "Goodbye forever," a cryptic message many assumed pointed to city life. But instead, she followed her family to Washington's Okanogan Highlands, helping to rebuild Northstar Ranch. Off-grid living was expensive. Insurance barely covered the burned lumber. Rerun royalties slowed to a trickle. Contracts that had once brought in $500,000 an episode vanished overnight. By late 2023, Rain was working as a waitress at a rustic diner near Chelan, where she met the head chef, Josiah Lawton. Tattoos, quick wit, and a habit of blessing every plate before it left the pass. They bonded over hymns and hash browns. Within months, they were inseparable, carving their initials into ponderosa bark and promising each other they'd never trade simplicity for cynicism. Now, those promises would be tested in open court, far from the quiet woods where their love had bloomed. Love in the shadows. After her shifts, Rain would exchange her apron for hiking boots, and Josiah would often wait outside with a thermos of berry tea. They'd drive dusty back roads until their phones lost signal, park under the stars, and sit on the tailgate, swapping childhood stories. He spoke of Kentucky coal country. She talked about sled dogs that howled at the northern lights. For a girl whose life had been aired for the world to see, the absence of cameras felt like breathing fresh air. Josiah, 23, an orphan in the restaurant world who'd risen quickly to head chef, was already burned out by 12-hour shifts. He admired Rain's work ethic. She admired his patience with demanding tourists wanting gluten-free elk chili. By Christmas 2023, their relationship went public. Her Instagram overflowed with loving captions, "My angel, my healer, my home, my forever." Some fans swooned, others were skeptical of the whirlwind romance. But for Rain, once shaped solely by wilderness chores, her heart had decided it was ready for tenderness. The engagement came on a fog-slicked pier overlooking Lake Chelan. Josiah carved a ring box from fallen pine, inlaid with an opal he'd mined on a Utah vacation. Rain said yes before he even finished asking. They shared no video, posted no stories. It wasn't until January, in a selfie where her glittering ring first appeared, that fans put it together. That same night, she typed "Goodbye forever" in a reply to a troll who accused her of selling out. Few realized that phrase signaled a shift, one where Rain was shedding an old identity for a new chapter. Marriage vows followed just 3 weeks later, inside a log chapel near Wenatchee. Amy read from Corinthians, Noah strummed an acoustic guitar, and a local pastor spoke softly about forgiveness. There were no camera crews, no Discovery executives, no glossy tabloid exclusives. The ceremony was meant to be a private moment, theirs alone, until blurry photos leaked to a gossip blog. Within hours, Rain Brown wedding was trending. Offers for paid interviews flooded in, all politely declined. Rain stood firm. Love doesn't need a sponsor. But love needs money, and Northstar Ranch was bleeding cash. Snowbird's vet bills for rescued animals mounted, Matt's rehab court fees skyrocketed, and land tax arrears loomed over them like a dark cloud. Rain and Josiah developed a plan. They would renovate a disused lakeside cabin into a faith-based retreat kitchen where Josiah could teach bush cuisine, and Rain could sell handcrafted soaps. But the lease negotiations dragged on. Paperwork vanished into someone's messy desk, and privately, Rain filled the pages of a leather journal, weighing every decision against two unshakable ghosts: her father's credo, live free or die, and her own fear of disappointing the fans who had supported her. An entry from April 10th, later leaked to TMZ, read, "Those lines now echo through court filings like trapped birds." On April 11th, they drove to the cabin with measuring tapes and cleaning supplies. By sunset, they were under arrest, romance colliding head-on with reality. So what happened that night? Night of the arrest, Deputy Carlos Herrera's body camera footage flickers to life at 1942, showing broken glass scattered across the cabin's hardwood floor. The front window had been smashed inward, glass shards mingling with piles of spruce needles and a tipped-over rain barrel. Rain Brown stands near the hearth, her hands raised, palms trembling. Josiah kneels by an antique buffet, snapping photos of cracked porcelain knobs. A neighbor's 911 call had reported loud banging and voices arguing about money. "Mom, step outside," Herrera orders. Rain complies, her eyes briefly glancing at a framed landscape painting marred by a jagged hole. Outside, twilight clings to the sky. Backup cruiser lights flash red and blue, casting long shadows over the pines. Rain tries to explain, claiming they had permission to assess the property and that her former manager had stopped responding to her emails. But Herrera reads her Miranda rights, and Deputy Singh examines the pry bar marks on the doorframe. In the patrol car, Rain whispers a scripture, "The Lord is my refuge." Josiah stares straight ahead, his jaw clenched tight. The booking at Okanogan County Jail is swift: digital fingerprints, mugshots, and the confiscation of a multi-tool and a bottle of anointing oil. Charge sheets list first-degree burglary, first-degree malicious mischief, and, for Rain alone, second-degree trespass. No bail was required. The magistrate trusted their local ties. Still, steel doors slammed shut behind them for 68 long, restless hours. By sunrise, the media was already on it. A dispatcher's cousin had sent a tip. By 6 a.m., TMZ had published the mugshots with snarky captions, "Alaskan Bush People meet County Bush League." Security footage later released showed Rain pacing her cell barefoot, reciting lyrics from Carrie Job while silent tears streamed down her face. Detectives photographed every shattered relic inside the cabin: Civil War era tintypes, Depression era mason jars, a solitary cuckoo clock that Rain swears was already crooked before she arrived. Damage tally, $27,480. Ellis McGowan, the alleged owner and former manager, claimed the sentimental losses were immeasurable. He accused Rain of trying to destroy evidence related to unpaid royalties and final verdict negotiations from 2024. Insurance agents circled like vultures. At 14:03 on April 14th, detention officers unlocked Rain's cell. She thanked them softly, gathered her worn denim jacket, and stepped into the milky spring sunlight. Reporters lined the sidewalk. "Rain, did you do it?" Someone shouted. She paused, met their gaze through the camera lens, and said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." Then she climbed into Josiah's pickup, the door slamming shut with a hollow thud that to some listeners sounded like the first note of a long, uncertain trial. Inside holding, Rain shared a cell with a schoolteacher arrested for unpaid parking tickets. The woman later told reporters that Rain spent 2 nights sketching mountains on scraps of napkins, promising to mail the drawings once she was free. During her video arraignment, Amy sat at Northstar Ranch, her hand resting gently on Billy's photo. She mouthed "Stay strong" as the judge set the next hearing for late June, warning that any violation would result in their release being revoked. Lies ignited a firestorm. The internet thrives on conflict, and Rain's arrest threw gasoline on a flame that had already started to lick at the edges of her fandom. Within days, the hashtag final verdict Rain trended, alongside edited clips from the show designed to imply foreshadowing. TikTok, lawyers, dissected Washington burglary statutes, claiming Rain could face life sentences. Context was scarce. Hysteria, however, was plentiful. On April 19th, Rain opened Instagram to find the comment section splintering like cracked ice. Some called her a modern Jezebel, others typed words of comfort and hugs. She posted a simple white square quoting Matthew chapter 7, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." Beneath the quote, she wrote, "It hurts my heart that my rainbows believe lies from someone who stole $43,000 from me." The person she was referring to was Ellis McGowan, once hailed as the marketing genius who secured brand deals for the Browns. Rain alleged that McGowan had forged her signature on endorsements, siphoning royalties that were meant to repair the ranch. She claimed she confronted him, but he retaliated with slander, and ultimately, a 911 call. McGowan's lawyers shot back, framing Rain as vengeful over financial audits. They leaked an email where Rain supposedly threatened, "Return what you stole or the mountain will speak." Cable anchors snickered, but detectives started to follow the money trail. Us Weekly obtained bank documents showing $42,937 transferred from Rain Brown LLC to McGowan's consultancy in 2024. The memo, ad spend. Whether or not spending occurred remained unverified, but the damage to Rain's image was undeniable. Meanwhile, Bam Bam, Rain's brother, hinted at deeper corruption during a live stream. He suggested that certain people wanted the Browns off their land so developers could snatch it up for cheap. Conspiracy theories exploded. Was the cabin raid part of a larger scheme to discredit Rain before a property battle? As speculation spiraled, Rain retreated to Northstar Ranch, cutting herself off from the media. Josiah installed motion sensors around the property. Birdie prayed on the porch. Gabe strummed minor key riffs that drifted across the ridge. Family unity looked picture perfect from the outside, but insiders whispered that some siblings feared more negative press could jeopardize future documentary pitches. Netflix had reportedly sniffed around for a revival, but now executives had gone quiet. Civil attorneys urged Rain to settle quietly, pay restitution, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and walk away. But pride pushed back. Rain filed a counterclaim against McGowan for defamation and emotional distress, demanding a public apology. Negotiations quickly collapsed. By May 1st, the docket listed Rain Brown versus Ellis McGowan, a parallel legal battlefield to her criminal case. Supporters rallied. They organized prayer circles, sold "Rain Innocent" hoodies, and raised $5,000 for her legal fees. But every headline echoed the same message: not good. With every click, the pressure on prosecutors to deliver a decisive verdict mounted, threatening to crush whatever peace Rain had managed to salvage atop her rugged hilltop. Courtroom whispers followed her to the preliminary hearing, where she arrived wearing a navy blazer borrowed from Amy. Josiah stood beside her, dressed in a thrift store suit, a wooden cross tucked behind his lapel. The gallery was packed with reporters and a sprinkling of locals, eager for a small-town spectacle. Judge Marisol Keating called the session to order with a sharp rap of the gavel. Prosecutor Dane Mullins outlined the state's case: forced entry using a pry bar, malicious shattering of antiques, and a motive tied to missing financial records. He recommended a plea bargain: admit guilt to burglary, serve 24 months, and pay restitution. Defense counsel Liana Ruiz countered, no burglary, this was a contract dispute. There was no intent to steal, only to retrieve what was owed. Ruiz handed the bench a thick binder labeled McGowan fraud evidence, including spreadsheets of missing royalties and unsent contracts. Judge Keating flipped through the pages, but warned the contents were civil matters, not justifications for trespass. Still, she agreed to set evidentiary hearings where Rain's claims could mitigate her intent. A summer trial window opened, July 21st to 25th for jury selection, with July 28th set for opening statements. Rain's face tightened as the dates were read aloud. Josiah gently squeezed her elbow. Outside, cameras converged on the courthouse doors. Ruiz addressed reporters briefly. "We will prove our client acted to protect her livelihood, not to commit a crime." Legal analysts flooded podcasts with hot takes. Some believed the jury would sympathize with a reality TV underdog fighting corporate betrayal, while others noted that Washington's burglary law didn't require theft, only intent to commit any crime inside the building, including malicious mischief. The media screamed life in prison, stoking hysteria online. Meanwhile, rain clouds gathered overhead. June storms battered Northstar Ranch, complicating preparations for Rain's defense. Siblings debated selling off another parcel to cover legal costs. Birdie suggested crowdfunding. Bear balked, fearing even more public scrutiny. Amy called a family meeting, opening Billy's journal and reading aloud. The truth will walk out of the woods. The room fell silent, but beneath the stillness, unease simmered. Late one night, Liana Ruiz emailed Rain a spreadsheet estimating possible outcomes: acquittal, probation, or imprisonment until 2030. In the margins, she typed, worst case, 5 to 7 years. Not good, but survivable with credit for good behavior. Rain stared at the words, not good. They felt carved in stone. She shut her laptop and prayed for daylight. Her Bible lay open beside her like a lifeboat. During recess, supporters waved signs reading, "Free the Bush Baby," outside the courthouse, sparking fiery debates on Twitter about guilt, fame, and justice. Every click piled another stone on Rain's mountain. The Browns had faced blizzards, bear raids, and TV cancellations, but nothing fractured them like Rain's trial. One moonless night, Amy gathered her children around the fire pit, where Billy had once preached resilience. The siblings shared their struggles. Gabe had mortgaged his truck for legal fees, Bear sold photo rights for cash, Birdie feared paparazzi, and Noah made phone jammers. Matt, estranged but sober, called from California, promising to testify on Rain's behalf. It was a moment of unity amidst the storm. The outside world saw opportunity. Tabloids ran absurd stories, claiming the Browns staged the burglary. Brands pulled away, and one energy bar company demanded 5,000 samples back. Silence from the Browns only fueled speculation. Army's viral interview, "My daughter is not a thief. She's a survivor," garnered both support and threats, including one to burn down Northstar Ranch. Financial pressures mounted, with rising insurance premiums and costly expert witnesses. The Browns brainstormed ideas to stay afloat, but each felt like a band-aid on a sinking ship. Meanwhile, Rain became a folk hero online, fighting corporate greed. As the trial loomed, the Browns gathered around a beacon fire. Rain whispered to Josiah, "No matter what comes, we don't lose each other." Survival was no longer about chopping wood. It was about standing tall under pressure. Rain's battle was not just in the courtroom but against a world that had already judged her. Even if she won, her reputation might never recover. The truth was drowned out by public opinion, and the cost of fame had become a brutal reality.